All right, I know we have a short time frame, and so I want to go ahead and get started. Welcome to today's presentation, How to Use the CNP to Land Your Next Job. My name is Danielle Contreras, and I am a CNP and the immediate past president of the Association of CNPs. We're so glad to have you all joining us today. Today's agenda, just so that you can be prepared for what the next 45 minutes are going to look like, is going to entail a short presentation from Krista Beal-Diepenbach. She is going to share some expertise on how we can utilize the CNP in job interviews and talking about how we can utilize it as a positioning tool when we're looking for a job. Then we'll break out into small groups for about 10 minutes. These groups will be about 4 or 5 individuals. You'll have someone within the group who can help kind of facilitate the conversation. We'll talk through some questions, and then finally we'll come back together to share our key takeaways. So before we turn it over to Krista, we're going to do a poll just to get a sense of who is on our call today. So my colleague Anne is going to share her screen, and you can see here, if you go to this website that's at the top of the screen, www.menti.com, and utilize the code is 5096994, and then answer these questions. We just want to get a sense for where everybody stands in their current job search or job satisfaction. All right, so as these answers are coming in, it looks like most individuals on the call are not looking for a new position. And then if we could go to the next slide, we'll have one more poll question. Are you satisfied with your job? So if you're on that Menti website, it'll just go ahead and automatically refresh, and you'll be able to answer that question as well. All right, so thank you all for participating. We truly appreciate that. So we'll go ahead and take that down. And then with that in mind, it is my pleasure to introduce our expert, Krista Beal-Diepenbach. Krista has worked as a Chief Development Officer, Chief Marketing Officer, and Chief Relationship Officer at nonprofits that range in size from small to multi-billion-dollar institutions for 25 years. During her years in the sector, Krista has developed and managed integrated marketing and fundraising strategies at social impact organizations, enabling them to achieve aggressive revenue and programmatic goals. She is currently the executive director of Friends of the Domes, a nonprofit organization responsible for generating revenue and community support for the Mitchell Park Horticultural Conservatory in Milwaukee. So I am going to turn it over to Krista, and thank you in advance, Krista, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here today, and I'm going to share my screen so you can see my PowerPoint presentation. So hopefully this comes up. I will assume that that looks good and let me know otherwise. Great. And so I see lots of familiar folks on today's call. So hello to you all, and I'm really happy to be here presenting on this really important topic. And it's interesting that quite a few people who are here today aren't currently looking for a job, but really what we're going to talk about is not just about how to land your next job, but really to build yourself up for success. So when Keely had asked me to present today, and she had said, well, you know, you just went through a job search. And I said, well, I didn't do it in the traditional sense, in that a connection I had reached out to me and said that they were looking for an executive director of the Friends of the Domes. And so, she had mentioned to me that she thought that I had the right skill set and asked me to throw my hat in the ring. And, when a job is, not to say that I didn't still work for it, because of course I did, but when a job's kind of the introduction is given to you, it's a lot easier, right? That's an easier way to find a job than when you're just out there trying to make it happen. But, when Keely and I got to talking about it, really, it became evident that that's happened for me quite a few times in my career. And the reason why is because of my network, right? So building that intentional building of a network. So we're going to talk about that today, and that will most certainly help you as you're working to land your next job, but it will also help all throughout your career, regardless of whether what you're doing is for your organization or in terms of building your own personal brand, whatever your objective, having a really strong network is going to be key. So we'll talk a little bit about how to leverage the CNP in building that network. So Danielle gave you my bio. I won't talk a lot more about myself other than to say that I am not beneath using my cute animals to ingratiate myself to you and to get you to see what are the priorities in my life. So that's my dog Cookie and my cat French Fry. As Danielle said, I am the executive director of Friends of the Domes, and so you see why we call it the Domes when you have to say horticultural conservatory a bunch of times. It's very easy to stumble on those words. But we are located in Milwaukee, and it is a landmark conservatory. It's actually one of the largest conservatories in the entire United States. It's was built in the mid-century and is just a beautiful facility. It's truly just a gem in the Milwaukee County Parks system. And there's always been a challenge with trying to generate enough revenue to create a sustainable business model for the domes. And that's why they brought me in. And so that's what I have been very busy working on for the last 2 months and will continue to work on for a long time forward. All right, so what we're going to cover today, excuse me, just a little bit about how you present your CNP, whether that's in your LinkedIn profile or whether you're, in a job interview. We're going to talk about, again, taking advantage of that CNP network, tips for building your own personal brand, and then a little bit about LinkedIn and specifically metadata and why you should care about that. And by the way, if somebody does have a question, I'm going to go through this really quickly, and I promise we'll leave a few minutes at the end for clarification of any of this. Usually I like to take questions along the way, but since this is such a short presentation, I'm just going to roll right through it, and then I'll definitely save some time at the end. So I know that you guys know what the CNP is. You've either you're in the middle of completing your CNP, you have your CNP, or you're interested in earning a CNP. But I think it's important to note that part of being a CNP is having an elevator speech for the CNP, because not everyone is going to know what a certified nonprofit professional credential is. So understanding that it's a leadership development program that's based on core competencies that are well-researched, well-developed, and set you up for success, right? So CNPs are 7 times more likely to rise to a leadership position. That is hard research from LinkedIn. They went out and found our CNPs and then took a control group and compared our current CNPs to that control group, all whom had a similar education status and similar work experience. And what they found was that CNPs are rock stars, right? Because having that foundational knowledge is critical, right? It allows you to know the right questions to ask. Let me give you an example. So Sonila Artani is one of our CNPs, and she's actually, she gave this quote quite a few years ago. She has moved on to additional positions in her career and has continued to be successful. But she said, this gave me the confidence to speak up in meetings and to ask good questions. And that's what sets our CNPs on a track record for leadership. So how do you leverage your CMP? Well, of course, using it as often as possible, whether that's on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile. And I'm going to actually show you my LinkedIn profile in a few minutes. So I'll go over some of that in more detail, including it in your bio and on your signature line, in your business cards. So there's lots of places that you can position yourself as somebody who really has this knowledge that's critical for nonprofit management success. Also, you want to upload the CNP digital badge. And so if you have not done that and you are a CNP, I encourage you to go do it immediately, especially for LinkedIn, which we'll talk about in a minute why that is. You could also add the digital badge to your email signature, to your Facebook page. It's a great way to just give a shout out, say, hey, I just accomplished this. And again, it's helping to build your personal brand, which I will talk a little bit about why a personal brand is important. But if bare minimum, if you're not going to upload maybe you're not a social media person and you're not going to do a lot with the digital badge, you definitely should put it on LinkedIn. And the reason why is because our digital badge, so it's third-party verified, it's actually issued by an organization or company called Credly. And it has metadata in it. And that metadata is how hiring managers find you. So when somebody for the American Red Cross is looking for their next development manager, and they're Googling, looking within the LinkedIn app, your name will come up in their search because it's showing that you have these competencies. So the 10 core competencies that make up the CNP credential, you'll get flagged for those, which includes fundraising, resource development, marketing, all of those areas. So it just makes you easier to find, right? So hiring managers are these days proactively looking for candidates. They're not just waiting for you to find them. So the person who reached out to me about my current position, she's she owns her own search firm, and she went into her own LinkedIn profile and looked for the connections that she had and for people who had the type of experience she was interested in hiring for this position. So other ways that you can take advantage of the CNP is by building a network. And, you can do that through LinkedIn, which I will actually, I forgot to upload. I switched computers at the last minute. I forgot to upload this image, but you'll just have to imagine it. It really does show how powerful LinkedIn is. LinkedIn used to have these things they called in maps, which was basically, it would show you in the center, and then it would show everyone you're connected to, and then everyone that those people are connected to. So once you get a network of, let's say, 500 people, your LinkedIn network becomes just ginormous, right? And it's such a great way for you to, if you're looking for a job or you're thinking of sending your resume in for a position, you can stop and say, well, let me see if anybody in my network already knows this organization or is working at this organization. And I'll tell you, I have had so many people, especially those in the Chicago area, because I have a large Chicago network on LinkedIn. So many CNPs have reached out to me and said, hey, Krista, I'm a fellow CNP, and I'm wondering if you can connect me to the development director at the Arboretum there, because I'm interested. They have a development position I'm interested in applying for, and I see that you're connected to her. So a couple things there. I just want to unpack that quickly. One, I'm encouraging all of you to link to me on LinkedIn, because I will absolutely make introductions for you if I can do that. So that's the first thing. So send me I saw you put in your LinkedIn link, but send me, I'll put mine in there as well, but send me a request to link and I absolutely will do that. But two, I also don't link to people that I don't have some connection with. So lots of people ask me to link to them, and I don't unless I know you personally or unless you're a CNP. So I don't know all of you personally, but I will still accept your request because I know something about you. I know you have this really solid training that can be used, to to put you on a path to success for future, career opportunities or whatever. The other thing is informational interviews. I always recommend that people do informational interviews to build their network. It's a great way to get off of the technology and actually have a conversation with somebody. Because when you do that, that person's going to care about you more, right? They're going to care about, what you're looking to do, what you're hoping to accomplish, and they're going to be more willing to help you. And so I always recommend that you consider giving informational interviews or conducting them. So regardless of what side you're on, especially when it comes to CNPs, because that's a way that we can help each other out. We can ensure that our network is as strong and helpful as possible. So of course, the Association of CNPs is another great opportunity for you to build your network, get connected with them. You can volunteer, you can become a mentor. So I know Danielle is a mentor for a CNP, recent graduate, and that's a great opportunity for us to do that for each other. So I definitely would encourage you to look into the association and find ways to get involved. So as I mentioned, LinkedIn is really powerful, and I'm going to just take a second here and switch over to my other tab. And so if you scroll down into my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that my accomplishments, I've got those listed here. I've got recommendations. I encourage you to give and receive recommendations as often as possible with LinkedIn. And you can be very intentional about that. You don't have to wait for somebody to make a recommendation. You could say, Danielle, we've been working together on this committee for a while, and I was wondering, would you be willing to write me a recommendation for LinkedIn? And it's
can I interrupt real quick? We can't see
Sure.
your profile if you switched your screen over to your profile.
I did. I'm sorry, Danielle.
That's okay.
Thank you for letting me
see it. Yeah.
Let me go back to, I'm going to have to stop sharing my screen and then reshare it. So
no problem.
Stop share, and then let me try resharing. Okay, how about now? Yes, great. Okay, so back to this. If you scroll all the way down, here is my actual digital badge. So if you click on that and you click through to what it's about, it actually gives you information about what the digital badge is. And again, that metadata that is built into it. But also, like I said, feel free to come on. Do I have the perfect LinkedIn profile? No, everything could always be better, right? Sometimes I see things that people are doing that I think, oh, that's really smart. But basically, you're wanting to build your personal brand. This is an opportunity to say who you are. You'll notice that this is not my title. So when you do your LinkedIn profile, don't put your title here. This is your opportunity, again, to say something about yourself. What's your personal mission? What's the change you're looking to make in the world? And so I do just encourage you to take a moment and really build out, add in your volunteer experience and all of these areas. Make sure that you're utilizing this incredibly powerful tool. And I will say, my most recent job search, the board chair said one of the things that tipped me over, and he finally said, oh yeah, Krista's definitely the one, was my LinkedIn profile. So even though, I wasn't found through LinkedIn, but it did still help me in order, for them to get a better feel for who I am and the connections that I would bring to this position and all of that. All right, so I'm going to share my screen one more time and get you back to my PowerPoint presentation. And I see that we have some questions coming in, so I will address those in just a moment. All right, so we already talked a little bit about this, and Keely will send out this slide deck to you guys, so you don't have to write all of this down, but just some tips again, how to really take advantage of LinkedIn and things that you can do with your profile. So I just wanted to address a few what ifs because these are frequently asked questions when it comes to the CNP and how do you present it, when you're out there in a job search. So first, I hear lots of people say, okay, well, either I don't have a LinkedIn profile or my LinkedIn profile is really sad. Okay, so what do you do there? Change that immediately. Keely has some resources and I'm sure she'd be happy to send out. We've done webinars on building out a LinkedIn profile and things like that. So, there's lots of help out there for you, but no more excuses. You just got to do it. Even if you don't like social media, which let me tell you, I do not like social media, but I'm very active on LinkedIn. 2, what if your hiring manager hasn't heard of the CNP? Well, what a great opportunity for you to educate that person. So, most people won't have heard of the CNP. Just let me be honest, right? Most people will say, oh, what's a CNP? This is your opportunity to really explain, again, having that elevator speech for the CNP so they know what this investment you've made in yourself. I mean, it's huge, right? And helping to explain that, it's a great conversation for you to have, especially like in an interview setting. So what if a fellow CNP doesn't accept your LinkedIn request? Well, to be honest with you, not all of us are comfortable on LinkedIn. And so, you'll get some folks who maybe don't respond or they're just not on LinkedIn all that often. And that's okay. That shouldn't stop you. And it most certainly shouldn't stop you from taking advantage of LinkedIn yourself. And what if you hate networking? Well, so do I. No joke. I hate networking. But the thing is, just keep in mind when you're networking, it's about creating a mutually beneficial relationship. It is not about I'm pushing myself, sales. This is me. No, every single informational interview I have ever done is about let's establish a relationship and how can we help each other. Some in summary, things that I discussed. And again, we'll send out the slide deck, so I'm most certainly not going to take your time and read that for you, but there are my animals again. And I will now stop sharing my screen and answer some of your questions.
Thank you so much, Krista, for taking the time to share that knowledge with us. I know we have a few minutes, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into some breakout rooms. We're going to answer some questions. So we've got some great questions to start a dialogue in our smaller groups. And the small groups are just going to be about 4 or 5 people. So we're going to take until about the next 7 minutes. So I'm not sure where everyone is in the country or in the world. So whatever your time zone is, we're going to the 30-minute mark. So 2:30, 1:30, etc. We're going to go to that 30-minute mark. And Keely has just dropped those questions into the chat. And then when we come back, we're going to just very quickly debrief. And then we will have the opportunity to ask Krista any questions that haven't been answered through those small groups. So I will let Keely switch us over now. Okay. All right, so we will go ahead and get started with our last kind of segment of our programming for today. We really wanted to just see if there were anything kind of key takeaways that you all or feedback that you had from your small groups, and how you all answered those questions that you may want to share with a larger group. So if you have one person from your group that would like to share, that would be wonderful.
I kind of had a question because I'm still fairly new into the sector. I'm not very old, so I can't have a ton of experience. And I feel like I've noticed that many nonprofits, when looking for higher levels of positions and stuff, I mean, not only do they want the concrete skill set, but it feels like many of them want somebody who's 100% passionate about what they do. So I guess my question is how do you kind of navigate that interview process if you're only halfway passionate about what they do, but you could contribute to the job itself? Does that make sense?
You are right, actually. The majority of hiring managers say that one of the things they are looking for when they're reading through your cover letters is a passion, not just for the nonprofit sector, but for this mission area. So, I think when I started out my career, I thought I would only work for organizations that serve low-income populations, or, and the homeless. I was very interested in working for those kinds of organizations, and I had no interest in anything else. And of course, as I've gone on throughout my career, you'll see I actually worked for none of those organizations, and I worked for many others, and learned to have a passion for all of them, right? That they're making a difference and they're doing important work. And so I think the more you can at least establish some connection to the mission, it's going to set you apart. So I would say, it doesn't have to be, be authentic. Don't get me wrong, but position yourself as, caring about this mission area. And then I would also just state that demonstrating a commitment to the nonprofit sector is also important. So that's one of the things that the CNP does as well, is that it doesn't, it shows you're not going to, or you're not interested in jumping sectors, without much thought. Because when if you have a commitment to nonprofit work, then you have a commitment to that mission focus. And that's really what they're looking for. And so that helps too with using your CNP.
Looks like we have a question that came in through the chat. So do hiring managers or HR staff still read cover letters?
Well, I just hired, and I'll tell you, I did. And yes, I would say those cover letters, it's all marketing, marketing yourself and building your personal brand. And that can set you apart. And if you have a very well-written cover letter, being a good communicator is critical in nonprofit work. And so it's just an opportunity. Why would you not take advantage of an opportunity to set yourself apart? So especially if they say cover letter is required, then you want to do a cover letter that is better than the others. So and I know not all of us are great writers, but that's one of those moments where you can call in your network and help get somebody to help you write a cover letter that helps you stand apart.
Yes. Where can we put the resume and the cover letter in the LinkedIn so that the employers could see us so quick and have an interview with them?
Absolutely. I have it in my signature line on my email. So I have a connect to me on LinkedIn, so you can get a quick, go right to my LinkedIn profile. I also include my LinkedIn information at the top of my resume and in my cover letter. And you can actually change your name. That's something that most people don't realize with LinkedIn. You can change, it's like your URL that goes to your page. So you can choose something. If yours comes across as something kind of wonky, you can rename it to be something, as long as it's not already taken, then LinkedIn will let you do that. Brad, I just wanted to address your question about bots. And that is true with large organizations, but in the nonprofit sector, a lot of us are still doing it pretty low tech. So I did post my position that I just hired for. I posted it on several job boards. But in the end, it was me. It was me screening. And yeah, so I think one day that is absolutely right. Bots will be making those decisions for us, but I don't think most nonprofits are there at this point.
So Angela, good question about adding your resume onto LinkedIn so that employers can see it there.
Yes, you can. You can add that. So there's a media area, and you can add your resume, or even I even encourage, if you've done a presentation, you can upload a link to that presentation in your LinkedIn profile. It can be really a quite dynamic, almost like a website for you, promoting you and your brand.
All right, we have about one more minute. So any last minute questions? All right, well, thank you all for joining us today, for taking time to learn more about how you are able to utilize the CNP to either get a new job or just really market yourself. So we will, I believe Keely will be sending out the slides afterwards, so from Krista's presentation, and you can of course reach out to the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance if you have any questions, and we hope that you will connect with all of us on LinkedIn going forward. And Krista, do you have one more thing?
Yes. Keely, could I ask a favor? When you send out the PowerPoint, could you also send a link to my personal brand webinar that I did for Elevate, because in that I go in to a lot more detail about LinkedIn and how to build a really wonderful LinkedIn profile. So I think that will be helpful for some of you who are still working on that. And then Brad, in terms of ageism, so you and I maybe can connect offline on that. I think I completely hear what you're saying, and I follow you on LinkedIn, so I know it is an issue, and it's something that I'd love to talk more with you about. So I'll reach out to you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Krista, for taking time to be with us today. And thank you all for joining us. We appreciate Krista sharing her expertise, and we look forward to being in touch with everybody.